So today we're going to grade every Women's Euro side. And to stop this video being 5 hours long, we're going to get straight into it. So we're going to start with Group A then, Harry. We'll start with the group leaders, Norway. How would you assess their tournament?
I think they had a weird tournament. I thought that Norway, they got out of the group, they finished top of the group, and they did very, very well. But I think that the performances weren't really there, and that was it's a really difficult one to judge. It's a tough one because on one hand, top in the group, getting into the quarterfinals is a good achievement, but did they play very well? I don't know. It's a difficult one, but I think that the fact they got out of the groups has to show for something, really.
Yeah, it very much depends on whether you judge their performance based on performance or results, and it depends on how you view their expectations, because Norway should be coming into this tournament looking at trying to go deep. As we, when we were talking about it before, we're saying, Norway have got the squad quality to go deep. The problem is, because they've been so poor at previous tournaments, I feel like that expectation has started to lower. But realistically, they should have been semi-finalists this season. They had the run to get to the semi-finals, and then you'd feel that on squad quality, they should be able to match with some of the top sides. So I think it was still a disappointing tournament for Norway. I thought in all of their group games, they were less than convincing and got away with it. And I feel we're no closer to understanding Norway's play style or how they're gonna line up. I think Gemma Grange will be very lucky to be at the next World Cup because I don't think she got it right tactically throughout this tournament or the selection. So yeah, I think there's more questions than answers from Norway here, and so I think it's still a disappointing tournament relative to expectations.
Yeah, I think that if I'm looking at a number. It's a difficult one as well.
So yeah, it should be worth saying we're going from 1 to 10 here, so 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. Where does that rank on your scale?
5, mediocre. Yes, they didn't play very well, but they did get the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'll say we probably need a unanimous one here, so I'd go 4, but I'm happy to go 4.5 or 5.
I guess go 4.5 then, slap back in the middle.
Good to know. We're bringing decimal points in the first prediction. So Norway, 4.5 out of 10. Let's get on to Switzerland then, the hosts. I think there was a lot of a belief that Switzerland could go and do something special this tournament. I think they did well to get out of the group stages, even if they weren't able to perhaps secure the results they would have wanted to. I think they would have wanted to beat Norway. They were the much better side in that game. And then they got to that final group game and knew a draw would be enough, and they very much played that way. But I think they showed at this tournament an ability to compete with sides that are much stronger than themselves.
Yeah, 100%. There was pressure on Switzerland coming into this Euros as the host, and I thought they did pretty well to get out the knockouts. Was to get out of the group stage. Was exactly what they wanted. They drew Spain, which was a free hit, and to be fair, they fought for 60, 70 minutes, so credit to them for that. They gave us drama. Brilliant. All of their group games were very, very exciting matches. Obviously the Finland one being the most dramatic of them all. So does that weigh into predictions potentially? So because I enjoyed watching them, I thought they played some nice football, and it was good to see Pia Sundhage, really use her tactics and her ability to take the game to some of the best teams in the world. So I was impressed by Switzerland, and to be honest, if they'd finished top and drawn Italy, then maybe they'd have got through the semi-finals, and who knows what happens going on from there. But I think they're a bit unfortunate to come up against Spain because they looked pretty handy in the group stage, and I thought that they did play some nice football.
Yeah, or if Italy had won their group, then that would have also been a good way for Switzerland to get through. I'd say they've done fairly well. I'd be looking around the 7 mark, I think.
Yeah, I'll say
that's
7.
a fair assessment for Switzerland. And moving on to Finland then. Finland, incredibly unfortunate to get through. They were obviously not... They finished 3rd, but joint on points for 2nd, so they'd have felt right on that bubble that maybe they could have got through. They're the only team that were knocked out on goal difference at this tournament, or head-to-head record, but obviously that didn't apply because they drew with Switzerland. But they played really well, I thought, in all of their games, Finland. I felt so harsh for them. They just couldn't... They should have beaten Norway by about 3 or 4 goals. And so they're really unlucky not to get a result there. But I think they showed a real grit and a real fight, Finland. I think ultimately, whether it was them or Switzerland against Spain, it would have been the same result. But I think it's so harsh to judge them on the fact they didn't get out because they were so close to doing so. So I think in terms of pre-tournament expectations, I didn't think they were going to get a point. And yeah, I feel that they should have got through now in retrospect. So I think that's definitely got to account for something.
Yeah, 100%. As you say, I predict them bottom of this group, and their performances should have taken 9 points from 9 and finished top.
Yeah.
But football's a funny game sometimes, and yeah, it is harsh because to lose to not qualify on based on one goal difference is a horrible way to not go through, and especially when they were minutes away from the quarterfinals. So it was a difficult pill to swallow for Finland, but I thought they played well, and with the general lack of quality compared to the other teams at the tournament and the other teams in their group, they put up a brilliant fight to take to take Norway, to take Switzerland all the way, and to only lose one game, and that was a bit unfortunate to Norway. I thought they did a pretty good job. So compared to the expectations of Finland coming to the tournament, I think they overachieved massively just based on the fact that they put up a good fight.
Yeah, for me, I think they'd be similar to that Switzerland mark, maybe just below because Switzerland got out of the group. So I'd say 6.5, so they're just below Switzerland. There we go. Nice and close. Rounding up Group A then, Iceland. Iceland came in with this belief they could be dark horses. I think a lot of people, ourselves included, were quite big on Iceland coming into this tournament. Complete and utter disaster.
Yeah, 100%. I think that Iceland could have gone on and done some really special things. We both had them in this finishing in the semi-finals based on the run they could have had if they'd gone through and topped the group. But they just disappointed massively, and they were a side that had the quality, had the big names. So they've got multiple players who are playing in the WSL, in the top 5 divisions in Europe. Obviously they've got players out in the NWSL as well. So they've got players that are playing for quite high reputable teams and playing for high quality sides. So we thought it would all come together for Iceland, but it massively failed, and a big disappointment because they could have really gone on and made some big waves at this Euros, and they just materialised into nothing to not pick up a single point as well. So it's not even like they went out with a bit of dignity. They went out with nothing. They just showed nothing at this tournament. Norway game was a bit of a weird one, so I kind of discredit that one because both sides were playing for nothing. Norway already through, Iceland were already out, so it became a bit of a frenzy. But overall, Iceland just gave us nothing at this tournament, and I was really disappointed at how they performed because I thought they'd done much better.
Yeah, arguably the least impressive side of the tournament. I think, especially compared to expectations, we thought this would be a group that Iceland could be really competitive in. So I think we've got to be looking at the bottom end of the scale here. I'll be tempted to even go as low as a 1. I don't think it could be a 0, but could it have gone any worse for Iceland?
They could have got smashed. I'd say a 2.
Yeah, I'm happy to settle on a 1.5.
A 1.5. That is very, very low. But
could it? There's 1.5 of negative. How it could have got worse. Think about it in that sense. It could have got a little bit worse. But I think, compared to expectations, pretty much a disaster.
Yeah.
And let's get into Group B then, where we start to see some of the sides that made it a bit deeper into this year's competition. We'll start with Spain. Finalist runners-up, though, to England. I mean, the expectation for Spain would have been to reach the final. They hit that. They played some good football. It's not a 10 because they didn't win it, but it's still a strong tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think that for Spain, they didn't really put a foot wrong all tournament, to be honest. They were better than all their oppositions right up until the final. Semi-final was a bit closer, but realistically, up until the final, they were better than everyone they played against. And then they came up against England, where it was a close game. It wasn't like they were played off the park in that final at all. So, and to lose a final on penalties as well is always a really difficult thing. So as you say, they didn't win it, and I think there would have been expectation to go and win it. They did come into the tournament as the favourites, both by fans and the bookies. So I think that it's weird because technically it's a failure, but the way they played, they still were brilliant and gave England a great game in that final, and were very unlucky to lose the final in the fashion they did. So full credit to Spain, because I thought they played very, very well, and on another day they would have come away as European champions. So I still think it's is it a 9? Is that a 9? I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah, I think the only way it could have been better is if they went on to win the whole thing. So I think they make their expectations, which are admittedly lofty with Spain. You expect them to be right at the sharp end. So yeah, I don't think you can have too many complaints. I think they say the Spanish fans, they'll be upset they didn't win, but I don't think they'll be annoyed too much at the players, just at the result in the final. Let's get on to Italy then. Italy, phenomenal.
Wow.
I think expectations would have been that they could have got out of the group stage. I don't think anyone thought they would be within 60 seconds of the final.
Yeah.
They were so unlucky to concede late on against England, then obviously go on to lose the game on penalties. But I thought throughout the tournament, the Italian side showed a grit and a determination and a tactical discipline that was so strong. I thought Sonchin, the manager, was arguably manager of the tournament. If it wasn't for the fact that it always goes to the winner, he'd probably deserve that, because he took an Italy side who haven't been able to compete on the international stage for a while now to be semi-finalists, and arguably deserve to be in the final. They were better for large portions of the game against England. So I think it's difficult, but Italy, could it have gone any better? Based on expectations, based on what we would have expected of Italy coming into it, I think it was a fairly perfect tournament.
Yeah, it was brilliant from Italy. I thought it was a lovely mix of young talent coming through and showing their class, but also the veterans of the side showing they've still got it and they can still make an impact. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching Italy play, and as you say, what more could they have possibly done? They got all the way through to the semi-finals, were a minute away from going through to the final, then were a minute away to taking England to penalties, but in the end they lost to the eventual champions. So it's a really weird one where I don't think they could have really done much more. They played brilliantly, and to lose, to get knocked out to the winners is not nothing to be ashamed of. So I think it's got to be another high rating.
Yeah, but I think 9.5, 10, it's got to be up there, isn't it?
9.5, just 'cause they didn't win it.
That's very harsh, but yeah, fair enough. Maybe if they were finalists, nailed on 10.
The
But
fact they were so close to the final, I think, would just drop it to a 9.5 for me.
yeah, fair enough. I'm happy to give that one, but I think they had a fairly perfect tournament myself. Let's get on to Belgium then, who weren't the most disappointing side in Group B, but I find it really difficult to judge these sides, because it's like, oh, well, they got smashed by Spain, but that's fine because it's Spain. So then how do we assess their performance in the other matches? I thought they just looked like they couldn't score against Italy, but were defensively solid. And then Portugal, they did their best to not win that game, but they did win it in the end. So it was far from an incredible tournament from Belgium, but based on expectations, wasn't too bad.
It wasn't. They got a win on the board. I think the best. It was just really flat. It was such an unnoticed tournament. Like we didn't see anything from Belgium, as you say. They failed to really make a dent in Italy in match week 1. They were smashed by. They put up a decent fight at Spain for a bit. Then
50 minutes, and then they did 4 in the last 40.
And then they got smashed. And in the Portugal game, it was there was no pressure on the line. There was nothing. They were playing for nothing. They just had a bit of fun. So it was a bit of a crazy game. But I think they're probably the side which I will probably the least noticed at this Euros. It was just so flat. There wasn't any storyline behind them. There wasn't any, this player could lead them to glory. It was just a little bit, there was just nothing there. Nothing terrible, nothing great. 3 points on the board, but they never looked like getting through. It was a bit of a weird one, if anything.
I thought Taloba looked good. That's about all I took from Belgium's tournament, unfortunately. I don't think they offered much in any of the games they played. The only game I didn't watch was the Portugal game, because we were live streaming the other one, the Spain-Italy match. But from what we saw in Belgium in the other group games, they just weren't able to score goals. And ultimately, you need to be able to score goals to win matches. So, yeah, I thought it was a really average tournament from Belgium. I don't think it's disappointing. We didn't expect any more from them, did we? I think a lot of people would have had them bottom of their group. So in that aspect, they were slightly above expectations. So, I don't know, middle of the road. 5. It can't be worse than Norway.
No,
put it that way. And they were 4.5. So 5.5, somewhere around that benchmark, I would say.
Yeah.
We'll settle on a 5.
5,
I'll say. Portugal, then. I think it's a tough tournament for Portugal. They obviously played that Spain game having, the nation had just felt the loss of Diogo Jota the night before. So I definitely think that played, and that had an impact on that match. I don't think it would have been 5-0 had that not happened. I mean, it very much could have been Spain are just a killing machine when it comes to goals, but and games like this. But I thought Portugal just didn't look like they wanted to play a game of football that day, and I think that was reflected in the result. The rest of the tournament, they put up a really good fight in the Italy game, right at the death.
Yeah,
They did rely on an Italy mistake.
how they drew that game, I have no idea. And I think the thing that swings it for me between Portugal and Belgium is that the way we've seen Portugal play across the Nations League. I mean, yes, they did get pumped by England more recently, but we've seen them take points. We've seen them go and challenge against some really big teams recently, and we just saw none of that. There was no character. There was nothing. As you say, the Spain game was under unfortunate circumstances. The Italy game was rubbish. It was just how they drew that football match. I have no idea. They were outclassed for 90 minutes. And then the Belgian game was just a bit of fun, and they still managed to lose that game. And Belgium were terrible. So I think Portugal will be frustrated. I thought Francisco Neto failed to impress or motivate or do anything.
I think he'd be a very lucky man to still have
Yes.
employment by the time we get round to the next Euros. I don't think they're going to be at the World Cup based on how they're playing. So that's what we've got to look towards now for them. But based on this tournament, four. Yeah,
I'd say a 4.
just below Norway, which is it's funny, but that's Norway compared to
Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah.
And let's move into Group C then. Some big hitters in Group C. We'll start with Sweden, who of course were knocked out in the quarterfinals by England. A flawless group stage record, only 1 goal conceded. And they really should have seen that England game out. 2 goals right towards the end, and then they lost it on one of the worst penalty shootouts I think we've ever seen. But I thought Sweden played some really good football, arguably the best football apart from Spain that we saw at the tournament. So that'll be a huge source of motivation. Of course, now that they've finally found some sort of settling level, their manager has gone. So now it'll be interesting to see how they adjust. But I think there's some really positive signs for Sweden. The integration of some of the younger players alongside some of the more experienced players. I think it's the first time I've actually seen Sweden use some of their younger players. So that was really positive. And I think there's a lot to be hopeful about around Swedish football.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very good tournament. As you say, the group stage is absolutely brilliant, and how they lost that England game, I have no idea. They should have won it comfortably in normal time, and then the penalty shootout was just bizarre. So I think they'll be frustrated because if they win that, for me, they're in the final, and suddenly that's a 10 out of 10 tournament. Wow, that's incredible. Still, they played very well, and they did lose the eventual champions. So it's another decent tournament. I think relative to expectations, we've said that they've got the ability to go and challenge the best, and while they did trounce Germany, they went and challenged England, to be fair. So it's a difficult one because for me they should have won that England game, and unlike when Italy lost to England, I felt it's more of a Sweden should have won that game because they've got the quality to challenge and they were in pole position.
They're 2 goals ahead, and they still managed to throw it away.
So for me, I'd probably say a 7.5. I thought they played brilliantly, but they should have won that England game.
Yeah.
And if they had won that, it could have been such a different tournament.
Yeah, I'm happy to go with a 7. I think that's the same rating we gave to Switzerland, and that feels about right. I don't know what our criteria is, but yeah, there you go. Germany up next then. Germany got all the way to the semi-finals. I thought the group stage was less than impressive, but they were good in the knockouts. I thought we saw Vuk have a lot of dynamism, a lot of tactical flexibility. I think we saw them adjust really well to some of the injuries and the suspensions and all the other drama that's surrounded this German national side. I think they did well to get out of some really tough spots. The France game, when they're down to 10 players after 13 minutes, after having just played with 10 players for a few minutes because they had a player off injured. They then had a player sent off for what was the most stupid decision I've ever seen of pulling someone's hair in the box. An innocuous, a blatant foul. So I found that one weird, and they did really well to fight through that. I thought there was a real character to this Germany side. I think getting to the semi-finals is a really impressive achievement.
It's such a difficult one with Germany because for me, the group stage was a 4, the quarterfinal was a 10, and the semi-final was about a 7-8. So where do you...
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. I think that it was such a mixed tournament, but as you say, getting to the last 4 and losing to the world champions is in extra time as well. You know, Spain were steamrolling teams before they hit Germany, who gave them a very, very good fight.
They couldn't break Germany down. It took an Aitana Bonmati, what can only be described as a wonder strike, because it's an XG value of 0.03, 3% chance of scoring, and she managed to nestle it in at the front post. So, yeah, I think it's such a harsh way for them to be knocked out. I think they'd gone to penalties. They would have been European Championship finalists again.
Yeah.
So it feels weird to put them ahead of Sweden, who trounced them in the group stage. But I think that it's got to be an 8.
Yeah, an 8. Yeah,
I think it's got to be, because they got to the semi-finals. They did really well in that regard. I think they were really unlucky not to be finalists at this year's edition. And let's get on to Poland then. I think a lot of people would say they were probably the surprise package from the group stage, or one of them, because a lot of people expect them just to get smashed in every game, but they put up a really good fight.
Yeah, they were absolutely brilliant. I was thoroughly impressed with how Poland played. I thought they gave Germany a brilliant game in the first match, and to lose that game due to a bit of individual quality from Nuala Brand is a difficult one to take, but it was a really good performance from Poland. I thought that Patalon got it wrong against Sweden, and I think she didn't realise that till half time, and they were kind of already out of the game, but they didn't play bad. Yes, it was 4-0, but I don't think they played terribly. And then to beat Denmark on the last game, absolutely brilliant. And I think that Poland, to come into your first major international tournament ever, and to put up a fight against the 8-time champions of the Euros winning side, to put up a fight against Sweden, who are a very, very good team, and to go and beat Denmark on your third ever game, it is a brilliant tournament. I thought, compared to expectations, they were superb. I criticised the fact they qualified to get here because they were terrible in the qualifiers, 0 points, and had to go through the playoffs and got lucky against Austria. But they came to this tournament, picked up 3 points, picked up a victory, gave Germany a game and a half. I was mightily impressed with how Poland played.
Yeah, I feel it's got to be above average, because our expectations were 0. So it only could have been better than that, really. But I'd say probably around a 6.
Yeah, 6.5.
I'm happy to go for 6.5.
6.5.
Let's do it. On to Denmark. Probably the other way around. I will say with Denmark, I think this could have been a very different tournament if the fixtures were different. I think the only reason they lost to Poland was because at that point they didn't care. They were out. I know that's not the best excuse, but they were out of the tournament. If they played Poland first, I think they would have won that game, and it's a different game going into Sweden or Germany in the next one. I thought they just didn't have anything in attack. They looked really blunt up front. I thought they just couldn't score goals. But they gave Germany a good game in match week 2. They made life difficult for Sweden. It was only 1 goal for Sweden in that game, and they steamrolled everyone else in the group stages. So I think, you could easily look at this as, well, we thought they maybe had a challenge and they didn't. But I think you could also say, well, they were able to actually offer a bit of a fight to all the teams, apart from Poland, who I think it was quite clear they didn't care about that game.
Yeah, they lost every game by a very small margin. I think, as you say, they did well to put up a fight against the teams, but I do think that Sweden and Germany were really poor against them. Sweden missed so many chances, and Germany were just rubbish. So, but they still had to score against Germany. They still went 1-0 up, and maybe if they hadn't given away a penalty and cleared it into each other, they might have won that football match. So
that goal was farcical. That stood.
It's a difficult one. So I do agree. I think Denmark could have easily taken 6 points from this group stage, and somehow they didn't. So I don't think it was terrible. They've now lost Jägler, which was a shame. But at the end of the day, they finished on 0 points, and they took nothing away from this Euros. I think it's probably about 4.
Yeah, I think 4.
They weren't terrible. It wasn't like they finished on 0 points and got smashed in every game. They did put up a fight, but they still didn't get anything from the tournament.
I just don't like putting teams below Norway. I think Norway should be bottom every time. They've got such a good team. They never do anything. Let's go on to Group D. We won't do this one in group order because we want to save the best till last, which is, of course, Wales. But we'll start with France. France were incredible in the group stages. Looked like they were going to steamroll their way to a European Championship. There was a slight defensive record that was worrying. The fact they conceded in every game, even to Wales. But they were awful in the knockouts. Just against Germany, couldn't do anything to break down Germany, who had 10 players for 82 minutes of the game. And yet they still couldn't break that down. They scored 1 goal in normal time, and that was from someone pulling the hair of Mbok in the penalty area that led to penalty. Other than that, they just couldn't score. They scored 2 or 3 offside goals in the second half. And they conceded the corner from Sjokk. How you can't mark every player in the box when you have more players than the opposition is just shockingly bad from France. But this is so typical of them. Show so much early promise and then completely capitulate by the time we reach the serious stage of the competition.
I've never seen a tournament like it. You come in, opening game, outclass the defending champions, Go on
It's
to
the first time the defending champions have gone on to lose the first game of the next tournament.
England's first ever loss at a Euros. It's like, wow, France are amazing. They then, a little bit of trouble against Wales, but overall put a few past them. Absolutely smashed the 2017 winners. I thought, blimey, France going to go. They're going to beat Germany. They're going to beat Spain and win the Euros. No, they just couldn't find a way past Germany. I still don't understand how they know on this football match. How do you play 110 minutes?
Forget there was extra time. Yeah. Germany still only had 10 players.
110 minutes with player advantage, and you don't score a goal. Don't win the game. It's just beyond me. It was disappointing, and a lot of questions for Bonneday and France, because they should have got to the semi-final.
Two big chances in 120 minutes of football, and they scored one. That was the penalty.
That's horrendous.
That was really disappointing from France. And let's get on to the Netherlands then. Oh yeah, we do need to rate them.
5.
That's such a good group stage.
So good in the group
yeah,
stage.
5.5.
5.5. Go on then.
Around there.
Yeah.
Let's get on to Netherlands then. Netherlands were
Rubbish.
Yeah.
They were rubbish.
They started the tournament well. The opening game, they're better than Wales, but they still had to. Yeah, it took them 44 minutes. Didn't score for a while in that first half, but yeah, it never got going for the Netherlands. Really, it just felt like they didn't know the Euros was on, and they just never started. And so they were drawn an admittedly very difficult group. I think it would have been I think they went into this tournament with no belief they were going to get through. The fact they already knew their manager was going to get sacked at the end of it, and they knew that France and England were very strong, and Wales, very strong sides. I think they looked at this group with no realistic opportunity. I think if they were in Group A, they'd have probably topped it on 9 points and maybe even got to the semi-finals. But they were drawn in this group and just went, nah, we're not going to do anything. So what's the point? And that was a real shame. They just didn't compete. I didn't feel they didn't try and fight these teams. They just rolled over. I mean, look at the England and France games. To concede that many goals to a team you were able to compete with at previous editions and the team you should be able to compete with is so poor from the Netherlands. And they don't have bad defenders. So what on earth went wrong?
England, they were torn apart. France, I don't know what happened, because they were superb to start. They counted blocks brilliantly. Two goals.
Winning half time, aren't they? 2-1 up.
Happy days. And then probably one of the worst second half from a team I saw at this tournament for Netherlands. But yeah, massive.
If they'd scored one more goal, they'd have been through to the knockouts. They'd have gone above France on goal difference. But instead, they conceded 4 in the second half. I've got no words for Netherlands. They were really poor.
2.
Yeah. Just above Iceland.
They have the quality. They have the quality to top this group on a serious, very seriously. They could have topped this group on 9 points,
but they just didn't.
They were right. They were really, really poor.
Didn't compete. Let's get to Wales then. 2 goals scored, 13 conceded, and no points on the board for Wales. But they did score 2 goals.
They scored against England, and they were level with France at 1-1 and 0-0. It was. I think for Wales, it was a massive tournament off the pitch for them, and the support was incredible. I think but to be fair, when you break it down, in your first ever major tournament game, to hold Netherlands for 44 minutes was impressive, and if it wasn't for a moment of magic from Miedema, they'd have gone into half time at 0-0. So in the France game again, started poorly from a corner, levelled it up, and then they were only a couple minutes away from being level at half time, and then they went and conceded a penalty. And giving away penalties cost them in this game. Giving a penalty against France and England completely changed the game because it just put them out of it. But in their first 2 games, they should have gone into half-time level. They were only a minute or 2 away in both those games from being level at half-time. And as you know, when you're an underdog side, that can make the difference. Because if you get into half-time and you're still in the game, you've still got that fight and that energy level to go again. If you're losing the game, it's hard to keep going for another 45 minutes. So I feel like they'll be disappointed because I think they could have got more. I know it was a horrible group and they were always up against it. And to be fair, we expect them to get 0 points, but they scored 2 goals. And I think the England game got a little bit out of hand towards the end, and so did the France one. But overall, they scored against France and England. They put up a decent fight against Netherlands for a bit of the game. And it was exactly what we expect to happen. The game just ran away from them as it went on. As they got to 60, 70 minutes, the better teams still had the legs, still had the energy, brought on brilliant players off the bench and just tore them apart. But for an hour in each game, I thought they did well to compete pretty confidently.
Yeah, they did get smashed every game though. I think that's worth remembering. So I can't see them above a 2.
That's harsh because we did expect them to get smashed.
Yeah, but there's a difference because we expected them to finish bottom of the group on 0 points. We didn't expect them to concede as many as they did. And when you look at how teams like Finland, who we thought would get no points, and Poland, who we thought would get no points, have done, they didn't offer much. I know it's a really tough group for Wales. Maybe it's a 2.5.
And they scored 2 goals. 3.5.
No way is it that high.
How do you think it's not that high? 3 then, let's go 3. But I feel harsh for Wales for that one. Because I thought...
How?
Because it was...
They lost every game by a landslide.
But if you put them in that Group A, they wouldn't have finished on 0 points.
I think they would have.
They wouldn't have conceded... that's what I mean. If you put Finland in Group D, they conceded as many goals, if not more.
No.
No? No, probably
No,
not.
I
Actually,
can't.
yeah, that's a bad point. That was a Poland. And you put Poland into... Maybe.
No,
Okay.
they've done better than Wales. Wales were not at the level to compete at this tournament. They should never have won the game to get into this tournament, but they did, and they deserved a brilliant Euros because of it. And the support was incredible. It's a great moment for the nation. But this is judging the performances on the pitch, which yes, we can be all lovely. Oh, well done Wales. Well done getting it, but they were awful on the pitch. No other way around it really. So yeah, I think it's a 3. I think that's fine.
Fair enough.
So that does leave us with one more team to do because we have the Lionesses left to do. England, it's a 10. They were terrible for most of the matches, but they won the Euros. It's a 10.
It's an 11. They won the brilliant, just incredible. From on the pitch note, it wasn't a great tournament. England didn't play very well.
They won it.
They did.
That
win
is
it.
on the pitch.
That is on the but they were second best against Sweden, second best against Italy, lost to France.
It's difficult because I've seen people say they don't deserve it, which is stupid. Because the reason England won the tournament was because despite losing, they were able to fight back in every game. And so that definitely counts for something. But yeah, England weren't great in the opener against France, weren't great for 60 minutes against Sweden, weren't great for 90 minutes against Italy. But they always were able to fight back. And I thought the final, they played really well in and deserved to win that match. I find it hilarious when people like Aitana Bonmatí are in the media saying that England played terrible and didn't deserve to win. Because if that was the case, then why didn't you win, Aitana? And I thought Alexia Putellas congratulating England was a clear sign of the difference between their humility. But yeah, I think England did well to win the tournament, and so it is a 10 in that regard. It couldn't have gone any better. Our expectations probably weren't that England were going to win it this year. There was a belief that we could, but I don't think the expectation would have been then. The expectation would have been finalists. So to exceed that and to win the tournament, it's 10.
Yeah, it's exactly what England do. I said it throughout the whole tournament. When the hammer falls, England are the side who come out on top. They're the ones who have the winning bid and they take home the trophy. It's what they do. It's what England have done best. Men's, women's, youth side over the last few years. When it comes down to it, when that whistle is blown at night, a football match is 94 minutes long for a reason, because you can score in any of those 94 minutes. It doesn't matter if you score in number 1 or number 93. It's just that, Spain, you can score 5 minutes in. Cool. England can score with 5 minutes to go. You still get the same result. So it just comes down, England find a way to win. It's exactly what they do. It's how they've won this Euros, and it's why they're the best team in Europe.
There you go. Love it. If there are any disgruntled Spain fans, if you could just comment British bias in the comment section, that would be great. We get that out of the way quickly. But yeah, do let us know your genuine thoughts on our ratings down in the comments below. I'm sure some people will have some different ratings to us, so let us know that. And if you want to watch more than on Wednesday, we did our team of the tournament, so go check that out. That'll be linked on the end screen. That, though, is everything from us today. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.